Hi, my name is Steve, and welcome to another episode of Fun with Fragging. Today we're going to work on fragging coral morphs, or otherwise known as mushroom corals. We don't have many rocks with mushrooms on them that can be removed conveniently from the tank, so we're going to focus specifically on fragging in the tank. One way to frag mushrooms is using a sharp razor in the tank. Kind of agitate the mushrooms, get them to close up just a little bit, and then at the base of a mushroom just slice through. And with a little bit of work, you wind up with a frag of a mushroom. You can do this as many times as you want, depending on how many mushrooms you've got. Here you can see I got three frags of mushrooms, ready to be chopped up into smaller pieces or more frags. We could just leave the mushrooms as they were and put them in a bowl of rubble rock in our frag tank, and they would attach and you would have 3 new frags of mushrooms in my case. Or you can divide the mushrooms into smaller pieces and have many more frags of the mushrooms to work with. To further divide the mushrooms, we're going to use the same sharp blade that we did to frag them in the tank. And we're going to slowly but carefully, through the center of each mushroom, trying to get a little piece of the mouth in each one, slice through them. Kind of like you would divide a pizza. Because this mushroom was relatively small, we're going to leave it at 2 frags. But with this larger mushroom, we can cut it into smaller pieces, maybe even 4. Then we have our 2, and then those can be divided again into quarters, and now we have 4. You can take your little frags and put them into a dish of water so that they don't dry out while you're fragging the rest of your corals. The knife comes in handy for picking up the mushroom frags because they're relatively slippery and difficult to pick up without mashing them. I find it useful to put the frags in their little dish of rubble rock before they get into the frag tank. They tend to float around pretty easily. For mine, I'm using larger pieces of crushed coral, and I'm putting them into a sour cream container that I just cut down in size. You don't need too much, just enough to put a little layer of crushed coral on the bottom, and spread it out a little bit. Then you can take the dish with the mushrooms in it and pour it into the container with the crushed corals. The mushrooms will settle onto the rubble rock, or the crushed coral in my case, and they'll attach to it in a little bit of time. After they're attached, you can take the mushrooms out and use the little piece that they're attached to glue it to a larger rock. And then the last step before you put it in your tank is to take some of the bridal veil mesh, put it over the top of the container, and use a rubber band to hold it down. This will allow water to get through the container while preventing the mushrooms from flying out. And then we're ready to put the corals in our tank. You're going to need to make space for the little container that you had. Just move some corals around if it's crowded. And then slowly submerge the container with the mushrooms and the crushed coral in it into the tank and into the spot. Eventually the mushrooms will settle and attach to the rocks, and they can be glued to larger rocks. And the corals that were disturbed while you were fragging the other ones in the tank don't take long to recover. Generally, if they're upset, overnight is a safe guesstimate before you should start to worry. That's it for this episode. As always, have fun and be safe while you're fragging your corals.